Greetings, fellow travelpreneurs, and welcome to another episode of the Travelpreneur Club, where I interview inspiring travelpreneurs from around the world and share their story of starting, launching, and growing their own location-independent business. Now let's get started. Today I feel honored to have Sean Kim with us. Sean is an entrepreneur, traveler, life hacker, and podcaster. He's also the founder of the Rype App, a language academy that offers unlimited personalized Spanish classes through one-on-one online coaching. Along with his startup, Sean has solidified his brand both through his podcast and his personal blog. His blog, The Growth List, Sean delivers plenty of educational and motivational content via articles, lessons, stories, and training seminars to help you build a career around your lifestyle and ultimately a location-independent business. His current mission is to help cultivate 100 million growers through his community and to inspire them to do the stuff they love. Sean, welcome to the Travelpreneur Club, my friend.
Hey, it's great to be here, Drew. That's quite a hefty introduction. I was like skimming through the introduction, and I just heard it for the first time. I was like, damn, that's gonna be hard to follow up with. There's a lot of pressure now to follow up with that in the interview. But I really appreciate you bringing me on here, man.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you were able to find some time. I know you're a busy man right now. So tell me, I know I went through kind of a lot of stuff right there, but, I'm sure I must have missed something. Tell us a little more about yourself and fill in any of the gaps I may have missed.
Yeah. Quick story. I guess my story and really shifted in that, I'm an entrepreneur since 18 years old, and I've always had that, but I never really knew which pathway I should take, growing from a very conservative family, Korean family, where, being a doctor and lawyer is really the only way to go. And most people in the family still don't know what an entrepreneur is. They're still asking me what I'm doing for a living, how am I able to travel around to these different places, how am I able to afford anything. So it's quite a neat topic. And I think my story really shifted when I actually dropped out of university on my last year. Which is really tough for my parents because not only was I not being a doctor or lawyer, but then I was dropping out of university, which is like the golden ticket for, any conservative Asian parent. So I dropped out to actually start my first business called Needle. Yeah, and I started with two other friends of mine through this program, and we ended up raising just around $250,000 to start the business. I had no idea what I was doing, and the business eventually failed. And now it's shifted into a different business, but I took myself away from the business, and I did what everyone else did, which is getting a job. But unfortunately, at this point, I didn't have a degree. I had no experience. I was completely broke, homeless, living in Toronto. I didn't have a house. Living on my friend's couch for a while, and I eventually got this job in New York City. And I remember I was just completely broke, so I was really willing to take anything that I up. And the moment that I get to the border in the U.S., they actually turned me down, and saying that my visa wasn't eligible. So now I'm really screwed. And at that point, I went back to Toronto, again, homeless, and I was completely lost. And I think that was that second step in my career, in my life, where I just took this leap and decided to go and travel. I booked a one-way ticket to Peru. Couldn't afford it to go from Toronto to Buenos Aires, so I took a 72-hour bus ride from Peru in Lima all the way down to Buenos Aires. Wow. Didn't know a word of Spanish, didn't know anyone there. I just went. Very similar to your story, Drew. Obviously, kind of giving everything up and following your gut to go after what you think is right. And then what made me, originally want to stay for 1 month because I didn't have any money, resulted in an 18-month trip around South America and Mexico. And one of, the greatest experiences of my entire life. And here I am.
So yeah, we'll get more into your journey. I know you've been through a lot, you've done a lot, you've traveled a lot. So I think a lot of your history will really resonate with our audience. So I'm sure you kind of have an idea of what a travelpreneur is. A lot of people, use the term digital nomad, but I'd like to give you our definition. So a travelpreneur is a traveling entrepreneur that believes in building location-independent businesses that allow them complete control and freedom over their lifestyle. So Sean, what do you do exactly that makes you part of the Travelpreneur Club?
Yeah, I definitely think I agree with that statement. And travelpreneur isn't like this well-known term, I think, at least not yet. Hopefully, you'll be one of the people that are actually going to bring this into the spotlight. You hear lifestylepreneur or lifestyle entrepreneur and all of these different types of entrepreneurs. But I think what makes travelpreneurship really unique is that this has only been possible to build a location independent business or become a solo entrepreneur, only in the last, I don't want to overemphasize it, but I would say in the last decade, so this wasn't possible, with the social media tools that we have, with the ability to make money and transactions online and really be able to communicate with people around the world. Like this is literally, we're actually paving the way, the movement, I think, for travelpreneurship, kind of redefining the word. So for me, I think, I guess what makes me a travelpreneur is that, and I don't think a travelpreneur is someone that works for a company that is, let's say living across the world, which is what I did before. I think a travelpreneur is someone that has complete flexibility of their schedule, of where they are. So essentially they're free, location wise, I think financially wise too, and also to be able to become free in the way they're living and the way they're expressing themselves in every day. So they can literally do whatever they want. They're not on anyone's schedule. So for me, I think I started out being, having clients and all that stuff, and it was certainly great, I think, but I didn't have 100% control over my schedule. And I think when I took the next step to start my own business called Rype now, I think that is really when I felt more control. But that's my own definition. I think everyone has their own definition of what a true travelpreneur is.
Sure. So I know you've been to a lot of places. Where are you currently in the world, and why did you choose that particular location to be running your location independent business from?
Yeah, so I'm actually in Vancouver. So I grew up here, and it's been about 2 years since I've been back here. So I'm here visiting the family for a few months. But the last place that I was in a city, we were just talking about this, Drew. And now I'll be in New York City. So I think the great thing about being a travelpreneur is that you're not limited to just living in a foreign country. You can have the freedom to go and visit the people that you love and to connect with the people that you love when you want. My grandma passed away last year at this time. I was living in Medellin, Colombia, and if I was working for a corporate job, there's no way. I went back to Korea, literally took the first flight in, went back there, but I don't think that's really actually when I truly appreciated the ability to connect with my family for people that I haven't seen in like 2 years or so when I want to, because at the end of the day, that's really all we have. I don't think that would have been possible if I was to work at a corporate environment or where someone was telling me what to do. So that's where when I really felt I truly appreciated the idea of being a travelpreneur. It wasn't necessarily showing off on social media that I was traveling around the world or doing any of that stuff. It's really just a matter of, okay, when it counts, am I going to have the ability and the freedom to truly connect with the people that I want? And I think at the end of the day, that's what it is. If you have kids, it could be to be able to connect with your kids whenever you want. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to freedom.
Most definitely. So actually, your video kind of cut out at the beginning there. Last place you were at before this was Mexico City, correct?
It was Mexico City. Yeah,
okay,
that's right.
And then some of the other locations, you were in Medellin, you were in Buenos Aires. Any other places that you want to highlight?
Yeah, I was in Lima, Peru, in Cusco, Peru as well. I was in Chile for a little bit, Uruguay. But then the places that I lived were Medellin, Mexico City, and Buenos Aires, and a little bit in Cusco, which are all just super amazing places. And hopefully a lot of your listeners have already been there and they're living in those places as they're listening to. That's the cool thing about this is that your audience is travelers, so you guys can actually. I mean, as we talk about this, you guys are probably like sitting on the Starbucks of Buenos Aires listening to this. So I think that's awesome.
Very cool. So, most people after they graduate college, if they graduate college, they get a not comfortable
Yeah.
9 to 5 job. They make the morning commute each day, Monday through Friday. They get to Friday, they say TGIF.
Yeah, yeah.
They sit in rush hour traffic every day. So, you know, I don't know how people can go about living their lives doing this. For me, I did it for a year and it was completely miserable. So, what made you take the leap into working for yourself and actually pursuing your passion? Following your gut.
Man, I'll be very honest. And maybe a lot of entrepreneurs that can agree with this is I literally couldn't do anything else. I just was not meant to work for someone else. Not because I'm this, entrepreneur that has a risk tolerance. I just don't have the ability. I was fired at my first corporate job, and I tried applying everywhere else. I just never had that luck. I lived in Montreal, which is a French-speaking province, and applying for jobs everywhere. No one would hire me because I didn't know French. So I never really could even get in there. I wanted a proper, stable job, when I was starting university because that's where all my friends were doing. And I just started to doubt myself. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with me? I thought I was smart. I got into this good university. Why wouldn't anyone hire me? And I was, stuck in this kind of rat race where I was the slowest rat in the race, within the rat race. And I realized that at a certain point, there is this other side of the world, which is actually hiring people to work for me and to work with me to build a vision. And obviously I didn't know that as a 17-year-old kid, but yeah, to be honest with you, there's nothing. This was something that, I have nothing to fall back on even at this point. This is it. And as Will Smith said, what's the point of having a plan B if you have a plan A that is going to be fulfilling your vision? So, I think that's my situation for me. And honestly, I think there's a lot of people that are out there, which is actually even more dangerous, I believe, than what situation I was, because I didn't have a plan B. This was it, right? So I had to spend every single minute trying to figure out what I wanted to do. But I think the real dangerous point, and probably what a lot of listeners can probably relate to this, is the comfortable stage, right? I think Brendan Burchard has a really good book and he talks about the 3 stages in your life. It's the caged, comfortable, and charged. And the comfortable stage is actually on the cage stage, because at the cage stage, you are frustrated. You are, you want to make something happen. You're completely, you're homeless. You don't have a job, or, you've had this financial trouble or something happened in your family. That's when really the underdog rises. Think about the Sylvester Stallones that had started from nothing. But the people that are comfortable, the people that are making a decent salary, $50,000, a year, or $60,000 a year, they've got a great job, steady paycheck, and now they're, accumulating all of these liabilities, right? It could be a house they're saving up for, they already got their comfortable friends. And honestly, I truly believe that is the most dangerous stage. If your goal is to be an entrepreneur, if that's what you like, I think that is 100%. I'm not saying what's right or wrong, but if you want to be an entrepreneur, travelpreneur, I think being at that comfortable stage is a stage that I think you should always try to get out of, and try to always push yourself to be out of your comfort zone as much as possible.
Very well said. I completely agree with you on that. I feel many people get comfortable. They start acquiring liabilities, like you said. They start living for things instead of experiences,
Yes.
which is the most dangerous trap you can fall into. Kind of what you talked about though, with not having a plan B. Having a plan A and putting your head down, focusing on that, because that if your plan A fails, you have nothing else behind it. So that gives you even more motivation.
Yes.
there's a quote by Eric Thomas, E.T., the hip hop preacher they call him.
ET, love it.
But
Yeah,
I love this one quote by him. He says, when you want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe, then you'll be successful.
that's right.
That quote really hits home because it's so true. When you have no other options, you're going to succeed.
ET's the man. I mean, TGIM, that's what he calls it.
Yep.
You forget TGIF, TGIM, baby. That fires me up every Monday, man. I love it. I think people should check that out, like right now.
Definitely.
Listen to it every Monday.
I'll link up the video here. He has some great YouTube inspirational videos on there as well.
He's the man. He's the man for sure.
He actually went to Michigan State University too, is where I went to university. Went to the same university to get his doctorate. So we have a
Did he?
common connection.
Wow. Did he like make speeches when you were there?
You know what? I never heard of him until about last year. I actually came across him on Lewis Howes' podcast, the School of Greatness. It's the first time I heard of him, and ever since then I've been following along.
I just saw Lewis yesterday, actually.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
Very
or on
cool.
Tuesday. Yeah, I dropped him off at the airport.
Nice.
Yeah, he was here in Vancouver for a little bit doing a talk at
Nice.
Hootsuite, I think.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So we talked about earlier kind of a little bit, when did, you've had your struggles, and you realize that this corporate rat race is not for you. So what was like the main tipping point in your story where you said, okay, entrepreneurship, I have to go all in or nothing.
Yeah, I think it was at that point where, and again, this really falls back into not having a safety net and just really diving in. And I think that's really when you truly test yourself as a person, as an individual, and as an entrepreneur, and see if you could just point. Which again, I think the younger you are, the better. And young is like 30. I'm not saying young is 20 years old. I think that's really when you have the ability to push yourself as an individual. And I'll go back to this point, but the tipping point for me was, as I shared in my story, when I actually quit my first business. I dropped out of school, failed in my first business, applied to get a job, kicked out of the United States, and was homeless. So homeless, dropped out of university, failed in my first business, and got kicked out of the United States, all within a span of 8 months.
Wow.
And I was living on my friend's couch, literally had no idea what to do, and I had like $700 in my bank account. And it was one of the most like scary. I would get goosebumps, I would shake. And that's probably when I was the lowest in my life. Obviously, I'm going to have lower points, but just given the career of what I've been through, that was definitely the lowest. And I think that's really when you have this flight or fight response, where are you going to go through with this, or are you just going to let something happen to you without having any control of yourself? And most people don't get to that point. As I said, most people are very comfortable, so they never get to test the limits. And for me, by accident, really, I was able to fortunately have these horrible events happen to me. And I've learned stuff about myself that I've never learned before. And I've realized that I could really push myself. And it didn't go from just zero to to Peru, a one-way ticket, hoping to go for 1 month. That 1 month turned into getting a consulting contract and realizing that, holy crap, like I can actually do this. I can actually live across the world and be able to generate income for myself. And at that point, I think it was like $2,000 a month or something like that, which in Buenos Aires can take you pretty far. You go to the black markets and you exchange the rates, and like literally I would do everything just to pay the bills. And confidence just started building and building and building. Eventually that turned into going to Colombia. That turned into, going to Peru for a little bit. So it definitely wasn't this tipping point where I went from, completely homeless to, not being able to. And I don't think anyone really has that point. I think it was just an accumulation of small wins, learning from my mistakes, and then building up my inner confidence. And at the end of the day, I look back and it's like it was all in my head. It was two things, really, a lack of confidence and a lack of knowledge. Those are really the only two things that I think were missing from where I was 2 years ago. Because I'm no different. I think I have now the accumulation of small wins where I can make decisions faster and be able to accumulate the resources that I've learned from, these 2 years of making mistakes and all of these, small wins to a lot of mistakes, tons of mistakes. So I think that was it. I don't think there was like this massive tipping point. I think it was just small wins. And I think that's how most people would share their stories. I definitely don't think it's what media says, which is you suddenly wake up and you raise millions of dollars, for your company.
Most definitely. Actually, kind of to go off of that, I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
That's actually on my list.
Yeah. So actually, I have a copy of it right here. But basically, he talks about this, what you were just saying, like those small wins. Building upon step by step every day. Just like the compound effect works for money, the compound effect can be applied to your life. Whether it be your health, your wealth, your relationships, whatever it may be. Constantly building upon those little things day by day by day, and in the long run, that's going to get you to where you want to go.
Yeah, I mean, I can't agree more than that. And just hearing stories, Lewis and I were talking as well. I think he's got the exact same story, and people that are wondering where they want to be. I think it's important to have a vision, but I don't think it should affect you from starting, because it's one of the best ways to figure out all these things is not to just plan, but to actually just take action, take it one step at a time. And you'll be surprised. Like even today myself, I'm always surprised about how I can just figure things out, even when I have no idea what's going to happen. And I think people need to give themselves more credit than what they give themselves by being in this comfortable state. And you'll be surprised what humans can do if you just can unleash them into the wild.
Sure. Just jump. It'll be okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard, but there's he was on Lewis's podcast too. His name is Jesse, I think. He's the husband of Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, and he's like a billionaire entrepreneur as well.
Okay.
I forgot his name, Jesse Itz or something like that. But what they did, what Sarah and Jesse, I believe, did was he ended up running this marathon, I believe, and saw this Navy SEAL as he was running this marathon and realized that it was a long marathon. It wasn't just like a one-day thing. Everyone else had like camping gear, they had like food, they had proper running gear, like 3 running shoes and all that stuff. They had the whole thing packaged. And then there was this one guy who was just this massive guy, 6'5" or like 200 pounds. And he had chips and I think like a cup for water. And apparently what he did was he actually ended up breaking some of the bones on his feet.
Wow.
And he still finished the marathon because he just didn't have anything else.
Incredible.
So he looked at him and he's like, wow, I need to learn whatever it is that he has in his body and in his mind. So what he did was he actually hired this guy to kind of run a routine for his family. And for I think like a week or a month or something like that, he had this document of how he's trained and what the mindset of a Navy SEAL is, which is where he was coming from. So he has this book out now. Everyone should check it out. I think it's like Navy SEAL something. I'm sure you can link it up.
So I'll do some research and link it up.
Yeah, definitely link it up. And what's really struck me was that the first exercise that he did from day one, what he did was he went downstairs, they went to the gym, and he just started doing chin-ups. And he did as many as he could. He wasn't in the best shape, 6 or 8. And then the Navy SEAL guy just told him, all right, you're going to do 100, and we're not going to leave the gym today until you do all 100. He did 8 and he stopped, basically, right? So he ended up doing all 100, 92 more throughout the rest of the day.
Wow.
And when his brain told him to stop at 8. So what he learned was that what the Navy SEAL told him is that at that point in our body and our mind, when we're ready to give up, when we're saying no more, whether you're running a marathon, whether you're at the gym, or whether you have a business that you're starting out and you're ready to give up, that humans are actually only 40% at their full capacity. So at that moment when your brain is telling yourself to shut off, you're only 40% at your full potential. Which is amazing because so many of us give up probably when we're 20 20%, we listen to what our brain is telling us because of all the inner voices in our heads and what we've been taught at childhood. Our parents are always telling us, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that, what are you doing? So our brains have been just, trained to, I think, in our inner voice, just to stop before we hurt ourselves or before we get hurt. And the truth is that we're so much more capable and we have so much potential than we think we do. And that's just scientifically backed. This isn't just some fairy tale that I'm making up. But that's I think we could definitely learn a lot from Navy SEALs as a travelpreneur.
Most definitely. I think that's a great point. So we talked about what people, the fear of starting a business, the fear of the unknown, the fear of taking that leap. So what do you believe is the greatest factor? People from people taking control of their lives, and making necessary change to be happy and to maybe launch their entrepreneurial endeavor or change jobs or whatever it may be. What is that greatest fear?
What is the greatest fear that I had, or what is the greatest fear that
you think most people have?
I think honestly, people are afraid of success more than they're afraid of failure, which is ironic. And sometimes, when I first started, I had that feeling too, because when you think about success, when you don't come from, I didn't come from a background of money, nor did I have people around me that were successful. And all my life I was told, successful people are X. And usually they had some negative connotation to it, right? They inherited their money. They were successful because of this. Oh man, you hear of celebrities committing suicide or all these negative connotations, at least around my family. And sometimes it could be different depending on where you grew up. So for me, I always associated success as stressful. I associated it as managing people. I associated it as people taking advantage of me. And it took me a while, man, just to get rid of that mindset, because when you're growing up with that your whole life, even if it's just for 15 years, that's still, for people that are listening, if you're in your early 20s, let's say, that's a big portion of your life. So for you to rewire all of the things that you were taught when you were a little kid, that was really tough. And at this point, I've been able to train myself to actually always think in a different way. Like I almost think opposite whatever my parents would say. I literally train myself to think opposite in the most logical way possible, of course. So for me, I think that's it. I think so many people that have not been around, as you mentioned, the average of the 5 people around you, the successful people that think differently, I think most people are just afraid of success because of what that might bring to them. And that's why people just never really go for it. They're comfortable being average because they've never gone and discovered what truly successful people do. And it's true. I think so many successful people, there's a lot of successful people where they're making a lot of money, but they're not fulfilled. I think Lewis had a great quote where you shouldn't strive to be a king of diamonds, but you should strive to be a king of hearts. In that you can have all the diamonds of the world, but if you don't have people that love you, if you don't give your heart away to the people that have gotten you to where you are, then I think it's pointless. So I think there's a great quote. I forgot who said it, but I think money is really just a highlight of who you are as an individual. So if you're already, pessimist, you're already a lonely person, or whatever it is that your mindset is, money is only going to highlight that. It's not going to cure it. If you're already a happy individual that's giving, then having more money is really going to highlight that. So there's a lot of successful people that are giving away tons of money to charity, doing good for the world, and inspiring people even when they have made it. And then there are successful people that have not. So honestly, I think money doesn't not have anything to do with happiness when you get to a certain level. It's just a matter of you got to work on yourself now before you get there, because money's not going to solve whatever problem you're having. It's just going to highlight it.
Most definitely. So you've been traveling pretty long term for the last couple of years at least. So does the revenue generated from your lifestyle, does the revenue generated from your businesses support the lifestyle that you want for yourself?
Yeah, I'm a pretty minimalistic guy. So when I first started my business, every business starts out very slow, as I'm sure people that are listening here do. And at this point now, we've got employees, we're hiring people. So really, we're focused on growth. But at the end of the day, I've got my vision, of course. I've got the things that I want. But I definitely play in the clouds and dirt mentality, which is similar to Gary Vaynerchuk, where his is the jets and he doesn't care about anything else. He said, fuck the watches, they're from elsewhere, fuck the cars, all that stuff. He just wants the jets, and he's going to play in the dirt, which is building a business that matters. And I mean, I'm not a fan of the Jets. I don't really even know football, but I think I definitely can relate to that mindset and the mentality. Simply just to go and acquire cars and to do all that. Really, I'm just trying to build a business so that I can make and impact as many people as possible. And whether it's creating jobs for people and being able to build a real culture that lasts, forever business, as I call it. Not a business that is built to sell, but a business that is built to build a legacy. So that's really my vision for the business. And it's definitely making enough for the lifestyle aspect for it, but I think now I've gone on and tried to set a bigger vision for what I think the company could go, and bringing on the best people that I think can help me support that vision.
So I mean, now that you kind of just talked about it right there with the Rype App, so that's your main focus. You're dedicating the majority of your energy to building that business, correct?
I'm a little bit ADHD, so I definitely need to go and talk to more inspiring people and network and, try to focus on my own individual projects, but which is our company culture too. I definitely don't want an employee not to lose their creative stride. So yeah, I would say 90%.
So, being someone that is, from the United States, and I've lived in South America for more than a year, and I did a study abroad program actually in Ecuador, where I lived there for 5 months studying Spanish, international business. That's when it really clicked, was when I had that daily interaction with a local person, that it really hit home, when I started to think in Spanish, to dream in Spanish, it really, that's when
dream in Spanish.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. So for people that don't know about Rype, can you kind of give us a quick, like a 30-second, more or less, overview of what Rype is and how it can help them to learn Spanish?
Yeah, sure. So I think I'll kind of play on that note when you said that it's a completely different experience, right? When you're living in the country, you're fully immersed, and more importantly, you're speaking and you're building a relationship with native speaking professionals, right? You're immersing yourself and you're dreaming in Spanish. You've got friends that are speaking Spanish, and you're really living that culture. And what we've found, and we've done a lot of studies on this, is that there's two big reasons why most people never actually reach fluency in any language. It's lack of time and the wrong method. So there's a study by the National Training NTL Institute, and what they found is that how humans learn is called a learning pyramid. And what they found is that humans retain only 5% of what we learn from a lecture hall. Right? So think about the university studies hall, 300-room lectures where you're falling asleep and you don't really retain anything, right? So one ear in the other and out the other. 10% of what you learn from books, 20% of what you learn from visuals. So think about apps or videos. So we don't really retain a lot, but then you've got the other side of the aspect where humans retain 90% of what we learn when we teach others, and also when we use it immediately through immersion. So you hear all these stories of someone that's using Duolingo or some other app in their country where they don't have any Spanish-speaking people, they still haven't even reached conversation fluency. Versus you see someone like yourself or someone else that goes to live in a country that's targeted at, let's say, a Spanish-speaking country like Medellin, and they go from zero to conversation fluency in just a matter of months. So what's the difference, right? So what we really wanted to bring that real life immersive experience, that same power of learning and how humans already best learn onto your screen by leveraging the power of technology. So really what we've done is combine that power and allowed it super convenient and easy for anyone to learn without having to live in a foreign country. They can live anywhere they want, they can lead their busy lifestyle, and they can fit language learning into their schedule. Figured out why are the two biggest reasons why people never learn a language, whether they're living in a foreign country or not. And we wanted to design and craft a product that solves that exact problem. So now we provide 24/7 unlimited Spanish private lessons online. which means that any time of the day, any day of the week, anyone, no matter how busy you are, you can fit in 30 minutes to speak with a native speaking professional. So we've really combined efficiency, which is being able to find your time, and also effectiveness, which is getting one-on-one attention, which is the way we best learn through real life immersive interaction. Then combine that to build Rype.
Wow, that's very impressive. And I just from my personal experience, I wish I would have had that, say 3-4 years ago when I first started learning Spanish. What I actually did was I used free resources basically to set up Skype interviews with these people around the world, and I wish I would have had a more structured approach to it though. And it seems that Rype allows the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely get a lot of people. Did you learn like high school Spanish when you were growing up?
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't take it seriously.
Right.
I started over again in university where I actually started taking it seriously. But even
Gotcha.
that, you're learning from someone else that's an English speaking person that probably went abroad for a year or something. They're not a native
Yes.
speaker. They're still
Yes.
a foreigner. It really
Yeah.
takes going to a country, and immersing yourself. At least for me, that's what worked. But the Rype app seems like
Definitely.
a great opportunity as well.
Yeah.
So, I would consider you pretty successful so far. I mean, you've dragged yourself up from the dirt, as you kind of mentioned earlier. From being homeless and being kicked out of a country. Going through all this. A lot of people would have said, screw it. I'm gonna go home, live with my parents. Get a 9-to-5 job. Like, what is the greatest factor that has contributed to your personal success thus far?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I really appreciate that. I don't think of myself as success at all. I think I'm definitely in the early stages. If I compare myself, to the Lewis Howes or the Gary Vaynerchuk's or the Tim Ferrisses, it's a long way to go. And of course, I'm a lot younger than these guys, but I still got a lot to learn from really anyone. And I guess I did go through some rough times, and I've gotten myself to this point now. So what is that one factor? I mean, I don't think there is one factor though. I think a combination of different factors. I think the ability to be in a situation where I really have nothing else to fall back on is a unique situation that I had. And I don't think I'm a special individual. I think anyone that's in the same situation where if you didn't have anything and you didn't have any money to pay the rent, you're gonna figure it out, right? So humans, all of us, anyone listening right now, have more potential, more capability than you think you are. I think most of us are just too comfortable that we never push the boundaries and we never realize what we can actually do. So I don't think I'm a unique individual. I think there were circumstances that allow me to shine in that light. And really, I'm being optimistic about this because I went through some shitty experiences
Sure.
in the past to have help me realize that. Second is I've always looked up to stories, and I could always relate. So the toughest times of my life, I would always look at this, and I could either compare myself to friends of mine or families that have taken the conservative approach that are getting by, and that could have been the only thing that I compared it to. But what I recommend for everyone to read is biographies. Read biographies of people that you think are great, that you want to be like, because it's all out there, right? The people that have truly done something great, they've been able to share stories, or other people have written about them, and you can learn so much. It's not even the knowledge, but it's the experiences that you can relate to, because in fact, every one of these guys have probably gone through much worse than what you're going through right now. So it's all a comparison game. You can compare yourself to people that have gone by, went through the conservative path, and doubt yourself because you're not going through them. Or you can look at it from a different perspective and say, wow, this is the person I want to be. And this person who just went through 10 times. Oprah was, I think like sexually abused by her parents, went through racism her whole life. Like, I don't have those problems, right? So I think you really have to compare yourself. So even, you mentioned that I went through all these rough experiences, and, I'm always comparing myself to the Gary Vaynerchuk's, the Richard Bransons, all those guys. And that always puts everything in perspective. And I think the same thing works for when you're approaching on the bottom, when you're in the bottom of health things. Figure out who is someone that you respect, someone that you are inspired by that has went through some of the worst experiences, and you're always going to be in perspective. So I think perspective is incredibly powerful because you could always compare yourself to the average Joe, and you're going to be comfortable, which I
Most
think is one
definitely.
of the worst things we can do.
I think there's a saying out there that I really like is, the only person you should be comparing yourself to was you yesterday. How
Mm,
much further have you came since yesterday? Making those incremental steps forward. Because for me, when you compare yourself to the Gary Vaynerchuk's of the world, Richard Branson's, when you don't achieve a certain level of success, you put yourself in a bad situation. You can
mm,
set yourself up for failure just in that way.
yeah,
As long
yeah,
as long as
yeah.
you're making continual improvement and bettering yourself every day, I mean, I would consider that successful.
I totally agree, man. I think it's about being grateful for or you have, and I do agree that you can set yourself up failure, but I think if you can always learn how to contrast the clouds and dirt again, you look at the cloud and you see the top guys in the world that have done amazing, and then you look at the people that have, started from nothing and have really gone through some of the worst experiences in the same stage of your life, and you're grateful. So if you can learn how to change your perspective on and off, and learn to use it at the right times, instead of just comparing yourself to the people that are great, because that's going to make you feel like shit, versus you got to learn how to use that to motivate you, but then you also got to be grateful by looking at the people that have went through some of the worst experiences as well.
Most definitely. And you sound like you're a pretty well-read man. You like to read. You follow a lot of different entrepreneurs. Whether it be a biography or an entrepreneurial book, what is one of your favorite books that you've read recently
Recently,
or ever? I mean, really, just one of your favorite books that really resonates with you and has really had an impact on your life.
yeah, I would definitely say um, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins was a huge one. And again, I think books are all related to what stage of your life you're in. So sometimes Awaken the Giant Within may not be a good fit for you, but in that specific time in my life when I was at my worst, I think it's an amazing book that you can read that will just make you just want to jump up, and you've got like so much energy and confidence that you didn't even know you had before. So that's definitely a huge one. If you are looking for like an entertaining read, something that is inspiring but fun, I recently read Total Recall by Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's about 500 pages, but it shows you the stories. I mean, the guy has three careers, right?
Sure.
Four careers, really. He was a real estate investor, made his first million, bodybuilder, Mr. Olympia, got into movies, became the highest paying grossing movie actor in the world, and then became the governor of California, which is the highest role that he could get in politics because as a foreigner, he can't become the president. But you can bet for sure if he was able to, he would do it,
Sure.
right? So he's someone that you can definitely see. He's had his controversies, but you can see that he has achieved, like you can learn from his mindset that he has. And I think everybody could learn from him about how to win in general, in whatever you do. If you can do four careers, you can definitely do one, right?
Most definitely. All right, so as my last question for you, then we'll let you go here. So, what is your number one goal for this upcoming year here, and how do you plan to accomplish it?
Uh, it's one of those things where I don't know if I'm able to say, but my goal in 2017 at least, because I don't know if I can do it in 2016, is to hit the New York Times list for a book that I have coming up, which I should be announcing soon. And yeah, you said number one. So I think that would be the number one. And everything that I'm doing right now, of course, the business is a separate aspect that I'm always focused on. But I always like to have multiple things running, and I'll do everything that I can to get up on that list.
Most definitely, and I have no doubt that you'll get there with your motivation and your drive. There's very few people that understand how all the pieces of the puzzle put together, and I think that you're one of those people.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. But yeah, thank you so much again for joining me today. I really do appreciate your time, and I enjoyed our chat. I'm really excited to see this upcoming year, whether it be the growth list, the Rype App, your book coming up, whatever it may be. I'm excited to see where it takes you. So to all my other fellow travelpreneurs, I highly recommend heading over to Sean's site, which is thegrowthlist.com. It's a great, resource for some inspiring and informative content about, building a location independent business. He also has some free videos where you can, get the necessary start that you need. And also checking out Rype App, which is RYPE app.com, if you're interested in betting your Espanol. So, Sean, before you go, I'd like you to share with us one parting piece of wisdom or advice and how we can connect with you, and then we'll say goodbye.
Yeah, I guess just 2 words. I think it's just start. Whatever it is that you have inspired to travel, to start, whether it's travel or whether it's start a business or whether it's quit your job or, it can be anything in your life, I think. Start a new project, learn a new skill. I think it just comes down to starting. And it's interesting. There's a rule called the Zeitgeist rule, and people should look this up. It was started by a Russian psychologist back in, I think, like the 19th century, and they've done multiple studies on this by now. But what they've realized is that humans were naturally wired to come back to it, right? And if you look at the entertainment industry, they've actually mastered this rule. It's called the cliffhanger, right? You see a movie or you see a show, and it ends as soon as you think it gets to the best part, right? You've kind of had your little taste on it. And they've made billions of this cliffhanger idea because they understand the human psychology. And I think if you can understand that right now by learning about the Zeitgeist rule, sorry, it's not the Zeitgeist, it's called the Zeigarnik rule, Zeigarnik effect. And I think if you can reverse engineer that, if you understand that we are naturally adept to finishing what we originally started, then you can just take that first step. Right? It's called the 2-minute rule. David Allen has that on getting things done, which is just start for 2 minutes. The hardest part about getting to the gym is getting to the gym, right? You suddenly make a drive, but you're going to stay there for an hour. You starting a business, and you're not just going to give up on day one, but you're going to do everything that you can to make it succeed because you've already started. So the same thing applies. You want to learn a language. You're not just going to give up once you hire a coach or you hire a teacher. You're going to go through the entire process versus just trying to figure it out yourself, thinking about getting started. So I think that rule applies to anything in life. I think if you just get started, there's a bigger philosophy that's down it, and I think you just need to reverse engineer what scientists have studied for years and understand that just getting started is one of the best solutions. I think Nike had it right.
Most definitely. And what's the best way to contact you or get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best way to contact me at Hey Sean Kim or on Instagram at Hey Sean Kim as well. I'm trying to get on the Snapchat game soon. But,
there you go. You have to, man. It's getting
soon.
Big. I mean, I know you follow Gary Vaynerchuk, so I mean, I'm sure that people listen when he says something is going to be big.
Yeah, man, he's all over Snapchat. He's an investor in Snapchat too, I think. So
true.
Yeah.
But most definitely. All right. Well, thank you again, Sean. We will keep in touch and talk to you soon.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me on, and for all the listeners, thank you guys for taking the time to listen to this. And hopefully, it was really valuable, and hope to connect with you guys soon.
Most definitely. All right, Sean. Take care.
All right, man.
Bye. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. It would mean the world to me if you would subscribe below and share this video with a friend that you think it would help. If you'd like this interview in audio format, you can click above right there to subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher. And don't forget to head on over to thetravelpreneurclub.com for more inspirational content that'll help you begin your journey as a travelpreneur. Until next time, take care, my friends.